Hello and welcome to your Compsci 1MD3 tutorial. Now, fortunately, today's tutorial is fairly basic content, so we should be able to get this content done relatively quickly. Okay, so we're just going to head over to Avenue and check out the announcements page and open up the slides. Awesome. And then essentially with today's content, all we'll be doing is going back to codingbat.com and doing a few more CodingBat questions. So I'll open up CodingBat and navigate to the Python tab. And the first question that we'll get done is under Logic 2, and it's called Make Chocolate. Okay, so in the make chocolate question, I have a function called make chocolate that has three parameters: small, big, and goal. So in this question, I'm given a certain number of small bars and a certain number of big chocolate bars. The small bars weigh 1 kilo each, and the big chocolate bars weigh 5 kilos each. So I have to add up some amount of each bars, small and big, to reach my target goal bars, right? So for example, if my goal is 8 kilos in total, I might want one big bar and three small bars, and it might be given, 5 big bars and 4 small bars. So with this question, what we have to do is we have to return the number of small bars needed to reach our sum total. And if we cannot reach the sum total, we have to return a -1. When adding up the bars to reach the goal, we'll always use big bars before small bars. Okay, cool. So let's try to get this question done by 10:36. It's a relatively simple question. We know most of the content already. In my opinion, the most confusing part about this question is just the wording a bit. But yeah, so we'll give you 4 minutes to get it done, and if you have any issues at all, we'll take it up right after. And of course, if you have any issues, you can post the questions in the comments section. Yeah, I just took a look at the midterm average. So I think you guys did pretty well. I think the average was like 100+% or something. So yeah, great job. Good work on the midterm, guys. Okay, so 3 more minutes to get this done. Maybe I should play some music or something in the meantime. Here, let me grab some songs. Okay, one more minute to get this done. I'll play music from my computer, I guess. Just give me a second. How is the final compared to the midterm for you? About same level of difficulty. Yeah, the average is generally pretty high for each one. Yeah, so don't worry about the final just yet. Okay, let's take up this question. Let's tune this down. Okay, so with the first coding back question, I essentially have two options. The first option is if my total number of big chocolate bars is more than the goal I need or less than the goal I need. Okay, so I'll make an if statement that says if the goal amount of chocolate is less than equal to the number of big bars times 5. And so what that means is if my goal is greater than my big bars, then I have to use up all my big bars before using up the small bars. And that'll mean that I just need to return the difference between the goal minus the big bars, assuming that we have enough small bars. So I'll have another nested if statement saying if small is greater than or equal to goal minus big times 5, and return just that difference, which is the goal minus big times 5. So the second condition that I have to check for is I have to check to see if my goal is less than my number of big chocolate bars. And if that's the case, then I'm not going to be returning the difference between big bars and goal. I'll be returning the mod of the goal divided by 5, because that's the biggest denomination that I can reach with the big bars, right? So for example, if I need to get 17 kilos in total, of that 17 kilos, I can only get 15 through big bars, because each denomination or increment would go up by 5. All right, so I'm just going to say if it's my goal is less than my number of big bars, and if I have enough small bars to make up the remaining amount. So if small is greater than equal to this time goal mod 5, then I just return that remaining amount, goal mod 5. Of course, neither of these are true, and it's not going to work. I just return negative 1. Okay, so let's run the code, and we get all correct. So with this function, actually, I can simplify it a bit by merging these if statements. So how can I combine these two if statements into just one if statement? What can I do? Oh, I'm sorry. Uh, yeah. Okay, is that more helpful, Nathan? Okay, so here's the code, as we can see, and we have these nested if statements. How can we combine these if statements into one if statement? So what we can do is we can use the AND keyword. So instead of having two if statements, one inside the other, I can just say if this condition is true and this condition is true, then run the command. Likewise, I can do the same thing here. I can combine both conditions into one if statement with the AND keyword. Okay, and as you see, if I run my code, I still get all correct. Okay. All right, so let's go back here and let's go do the string to question XYZ there. So go to Python, go to string to, and open up XYZ there. Okay, so in this question, we want to return true if the given string contains an appearance of XYZ where the XYZ is not directly preceded by a period. So, for example, if we were past ABCXYZ, that would return true. But if we were past ABC.xyz, that would return false. So when I did this for the first time, I actually got this wrong initially. So I can show you what I did wrong first, if that's more helpful. But yeah, so how about you take 3 minutes to get this done until 10:44, then I'll take it up. So we're just going to stay on this question until 10:43. Yeah, okay. Oh. Okay, 2 more minutes and then we'll get it done. Okay, so let's get this question done. So initially, I was a bit silly with this question, and I thought it was much simpler than it actually was. So what I thought we could do was use our friend, the in keyword, right? So I assumed that if I had some string, let's say s is equal to a, b, c, x, y, z, I assumed I could just use the in keyword to see if some substring was in string s. So I could just say, like, I could just pass in the condition xyz in s, and that would return the bool true or false, and it returns true, obviously. And then I can also pass in xyz dot xyz not, or dot xyz in s, and that would return false, obviously. and I could check to see what the value of both of these conditions were. And I could also simplify it into one return statement line by saying dot x, y, z not in. Sorry, dot x, y, z not in S. And what the not keyword does is it's just a not gate, so it just flips the Boolean value, right? So it makes what was previously false a true, and it does vice versa as well. Okay, so what I thought I could do initially was just write return and have these two conditions testing to see if they were true or false. So I could say return x, y, z in str and dot x, y, z not in str. Okay, so I'll run this code and we can see what happens. So as you see, it works for most of the conditions, but what I didn't consider was whether or not there was both xyz and dot xyz in the string. So with that in mind, we have to consider these specific cases. And what we can do instead of making this code is use a simple for loop to test these conditions. Okay. Okay. So we can do this in a couple of ways. Okay, so I'm going to have a couple of if statements to test out my, I'll do my edge cases in the beginning too. So I can say if, I know that if my length of string is less than 3 characters, then the string must not have XYZ because it's less than 3 characters. So I'll say if my length of string is less than 3, then I should return false. And then I will have another if statement saying if my length of string is equal to 3 and it's also equal to character XYZ, actually, we can put this at the end. That's okay. Okay, and then I'll just have a for loop saying for I in range. And then I need to check 4 elements at a time, right? So I'll say for I in range from my length of string. And I will then say if the first element of the string, so that's string 0, or string I. So if the current element of the string is not equal to period, and the following 3 elements of the string, so we'll splice from I plus 1 to I plus 4. Yeah, if the following 3 elements of the string is equal to XYZ, then I should return true. Okay, so looking at these test conditions, we can be kind of lazy, I guess, because they're not checking for the edge case that I'm considering. So okay, I guess we don't need this if statement here. Instead, at the end, I will just say if my first three characters. Okay, so here I'll run this code as is, and we'll see how it works. So I'll press. I'll just add one more line saying return false, assuming this for loop doesn't work, and I'll run my code. Cool. Okay, and as you can see, the code mostly works now because we're lucky with the test cases, but it doesn't work with two of our test cases. And those are the test cases where the beginning of the string starts with X, Y, Z. So I can just have a specific if statement for that edge case, and I can say if my first three characters from 0 to 3, if those are equal to X, Y, Z, then I should still return true. Cool. And now it all works. Yeah, so I didn't have to consider about the length of the for loop, which is nice, I guess. Cool. Okay, so let me check the comments. I just use XYZ in string and .xyz. Yeah, but that doesn't work for the yeah, so I agree with your logic, Jin, but that doesn't work for all the test cases, right? Like we can try it again. So Jin made a really good point about doing it all in one line. Like when you run the code, Jin, did you pass all of the test cases? Like if I say return XYZ and str and dot XYZ, not an str, like we just tried that, didn't we? Didn't that fail? Because it's not considering whether both XYZ and dot XYZ are in str. Yeah. Yeah, you can use coding bat or hacker rank. It's up to you. They're both fine. But I think for this course, if you want to do well on the assignments, if you want to do well on the midterms and exams, sorry, the best practice are probably the assignments. That's most similar to the level of code that you have to get done. Okay, so that was the XYZ there question. Okay, let's go back to Python and let's do sum 13. That's under list 2. List 2, sum 13. Okay, so here, another very basic question. I'm given some list of nums, and I have to return the sum of that list. However, if the list contains a 13 at any index, I have to ignore that index and the the element directly adjacent. Right, so in this example, I just sum up every number normally. In this one, I sum up every number except 13. And if a number is next to 13, I would also ignore that one too. Okay, so why not take 3 minutes to get this done until 10:57? Then we'll take it up. And then we only have 2 more after that, actually, so we're almost done. Okay, take until 10:57 to get it done, and then we'll take it up. 1 more minute to get it done. Oh, am I not zoomed in enough? Yeah, feel free to let me know if the font size is not big enough. Okay, let's get this question done. Okay, so in this question, I want to first introduce you to the sum function. And what the sum function does is it automatically sums up all the elements in the list. How convenient. Okay, so the sum function, essentially, let's say I had some list L. L is equal to, I can just pass in this exact same list actually. There we go. And now I have my list L. So if I pass L into the sum function, that'll sum up all the elements in the list. I get the correct value of 6. So I can actually use the sum function to take the sum of the list, but we want to ignore the 13 elements. So what I'll do is I'll just iterate through the list beforehand, and I'll change all of the 13s and the numbers adjacent to 0. And that way when I sum them up, they get ignored automatically. I wonder what happens if I pass characters into the sum function. Okay, let's say I had a list of characters. This is an experiment. Right. Okay, and now if I pass this list into the sum function, okay, that's disappointing. Okay, so let's get this question done. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to say for I in range of my length of my nums array, and that's going to let me iterate through the array one element at a time. And then I'm just going to say if nums of I, if that's equal to 13. And so if one of the elements in the list is equal to 13, then I want to make that element and the element directly adjacent equal to 0. So I'll just say nums of I should equal 0, and nums of I plus 1 should equal 0. And then at the end, I can just sum up my array. So I can just return the sum of nums. Okay, so here's the initial code. Do you guys see any issue with how I've made the code to begin with? Do you see any potential problems that might come up with this code? So what I'm doing in this code is I'm having my for loop iterate through the array, one element at a time, and during each iteration, we're looking at that element, or calling that element and the element directly adjacent. Okay, so if I run this code right now, I get an indexing error, and I get an out of range index error. And the reason why I get that error is because during each iteration of the for loop, I am checking that element of the array, and I'm checking the element directly adjacent. So once I reach the last element of the array, I'll try to once again call the directly adjacent element, and once again I'll get an out of range error. So instead of iterating to the end of the array, I want to just iterate to the second last element. Okay, so if I run this code now, it's not going to be perfect just yet. But as you can see, we're getting some correct answers, but there are some edge cases that we're not considering. Like, for example, right now, we're only checking for 13 up until the second last element. We also need to check for the last element specifically. So I can do that with just an if statement, specifically saying if the last element of the list, and how do I get the last element of a list, or of any index, with -1? I say if that's equal to 13, then I want to make that element equal to 0. Okay, are we done? So if I run this code now, it's actually going to fail. And the reason why it's failing is because one of our edge cases is an empty list, right? So obviously, if I call an empty list and I try to call the -1 element, that'll be out of range. So I'll have another if statement saying my if my length of nums, if that's equal to 0, then return 0. I can change this to else if. Okay, and now it works just fine. There we go. Okay, let me zoom in here. Okay, I think we can probably cut this down. So yeah, if you guys have a shorter solution, feel free to post it in the comments. Okay, whoa, so many comments. Okay, list index, yeah. Yeah, awesome, great catch, guys. What if we were just to do for I and nums? Because I thought it's the actual value of the element that can equal 13, not the... Yeah, so, good question, Michelle. So, when you do for I and nums, we're not calling the index, we're calling that element specifically. But in this question, we might need to modify and access the specific element and the directly adjacent element, right? So in that case, I think it's good to have the index, just so I can easily call the, just so I can, in the same iteration, call an element and the element directly next to it. To call the element directly next to it, I can do that really easily by knowing the position of the element. Okay, so I guess you've got it then. Awesome. I used a bool to unlucky to figure that out. Okay, yeah, awesome. Perfect. Yeah, whatever works is awesome. Get the same marks every way. Okay, 2 more questions. Okay, so in the next question, we're going to go back to Python, go to list2, and go to has22. Okay, so in this question, we're given a list of ints, and we should return true if the array contains a 2 and another 2 next to each other in the list. Okay, so take 2 minutes to get this done until 11:06, then we'll take it up. Yeah, so in my opinion with this question, I think it's better to use the for I in range of length, make a for loop that iterates by the index, than a for loop that just calls each element one at a time. And I recommend the for I in range whenever we have to access the position of the element. Okay, 1 more minute to get this done, then we'll take it up. In this case, wouldn't the case 13.13.1 fail, since after the first loop, list is changed to 0.0.1, and the sum will get 1, not 0. Oh, wow, that's a cool, good point. Okay, so maybe then we should have the if statement after the for loop gen. Would that solve the problem? Okay, so we can try that out. In the meantime, while you guys are still working on the question, let's go to Python. Let's go to what was under string 2 or Python sum 13, so list 2. No, sorry, my bad. List 2, sum 13. Okay, and okay, so you're saying that this code wouldn't work for the case 13.13.1. Okay, so I would assume then what we should do is move the if statement to the bottom or to after, and that should resolve the problem. Would that make it work then, Jin? Okay, so we still get all correct, and I guess now in the iteration, it would change the last 2 elements first, and then it would change to 13. Or oh no, you're wait, that would not solve the problem. Wait, changed it. We can add the if for I plus 1. Yeah, I'm not too sure what you're referring to there for I plus 1. Okay, sorry, I thought you were talking about something else initially. I was thinking of adding an if for num I plus 1. If num I plus 1 equals 13, just change it. But don't we have the oh, you're saying an if here as well? Okay, yeah, sure. We can have that check as well. Yeah, I hope there's a more catty solution than putting an if statement in the for loop. But yeah, so good catch with that edge case. Okay, so we can say if nums I plus 1 is equal to 13, and then you want to set that to 0 as well. Yeah, cool. Nifty question. Wait, no, if nums I plus 1 is equal to 13, then you would want that to be you'd want that and the adjacent number to be 13. But then what if I plus 2 is outside of range, right? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I guess I hadn't considered that edge case, but I can look up I can just think about a solution, and if you email me, Jen, I'll send one directly to you if that works for you. So you can just email your question to me and I'll send you a solution after class because we only have about 10 minutes left. But yeah, I guess I hadn't considered that edge case. I guess CodingBat didn't either. But yeah, I guess 13.13.1 would cause an issue. I assume so. Yeah, if you guys have a quick solution, feel free to post it in the comments. I was thinking of adding an if for the num plus 1. If num plus 1's, just change it. Yeah, but I'm saying if I plus 1 is equal to 13, then I plus 2 and I plus 1 have to be set to 0. And what if I plus 2 is outside of index range? But anyways, we can talk about this after class if that works. And let me just get has22 done first. Okay, so in this question, we're given an array of ints, and we have to return true if that number and the number adjacent are both 2. Okay, so really simple question. So I'll just say for I in range of my list. And then I'll say if the element that I'm currently looking at, nums I, if that element is equal to 2 and the element directly adjacent is equal to 2, then I will return true. Otherwise, return false. Okay, so is this code going to work? Have I considered the full operation? So one thing I should probably keep in mind is I'm going to get an indexing error because I'm iterating through the list one iteration at a time. And so that means when I reach the last iteration, because I'm checking the current element and the next element in the same loop, I'll get an indexing error. So instead, I'll just iterate up to the second last element. Okay, there we go. Simple. Okay, I see no more comments, so let's go and move on to Python. And I'll move on to the last one is called make bricks. So that's under logic 2. Make bricks. Cool. Okay, so very similar question to the first one actually. But this one we can actually get done in one line of code, I think. Okay, so try to get this done in like 1 minute, 11:13, and then we'll take it up. And there's one more thing I wanted to talk about that I think CodingBat did kind of wrong. Okay, let's try to get this done by 11:13. Yeah, with that 13 question, I suppose the issue pops up whenever two 13s are adjacent. So yeah, maybe you should check for, maybe you then have to check for both 13s. If I and I plus 1 are both 13 in the same loop. So then maybe, yeah, you have to be checking I plus 1, and I plus 2 all in the same loop. But then what if I plus 2 is 13, right? So yeah, okay, so that's a funny case to consider. Does it say whether or not the 13s are adjacent in the question? Yeah, it's weird they never brought up that condition because this would fail, I guess, whenever if 13 was ever directly adjacent to another 13. Maybe they didn't include that test case on purpose. Okay, anyways, let's do the small big goal question. Yeah, this one's super simple. So I just have to return true or false, depending on whether or not we can make the number of bricks, make the line of bricks. Because I don't have to return like a quantity of bricks, I can just return a bool. So I can do this all in one line. I can just say that if one of the two, if either condition, if the conditions are true, I can return true then. So my first condition is, of course, just going to be if my goal mod 5, if that is less than and equal to small. And my second condition is going to be my goal, if the difference between my goal and my number of big bars minus big mod 5, sorry, times 5, times 5. So if that is less than and equal to small, then I can return true. Awesome. Yeah, super simple question. Okay, so one last thing that I wanted to talk about was with that string question we did. I think it was under string 2. Maybe not. Yeah, XYZ there. Okay, so with this question, they did something that I don't really like, which is that they used as their variable name the variable string, and that's not a good idea because string is an existing built-in function in Python, right? So for example, if I type in string, that highlights because it's a built-in function, the string function, which automatically casts something as a string, right? So if I pass in string 44, that gets cast as a string. So we absolutely can rename or the variable to do something else. So I can make string equal to 4 or string equal to like some sequence class. Okay, and now when I call the variable string, I get class, but my function should no longer work, I would imagine. See, I'm getting a type error because string has been cast from this function object to now this variable. So I'd recommend not using built-in functions in Python because you might need the string function for some other purpose, and it's like a bad practice. So I'd probably use a variable like s instead. I think they just copied the Java code into the Python code, and I'm guessing in Java, a string isn't a built-in function. Yeah, so we can rename the built-in functions, which is the purple text in Python. So like int, string, list, all of these we can rename. What we can't rename are the keywords in Python. So for example, the keyword in, I can't rename to something else. I get an error because in is a built-in function. So in is a keyword, so it's a static defined value that cannot be changed. Cool. Okay, so that's my one point of caution here that I don't like too much about the question. Okay, so I think that is it for me today. Yeah, if you have any questions, post them in the chat. I'll be here for another couple of minutes, and yeah, have a great long weekend. If you have a question, you can post it in the chat. If not, have a great long weekend. I see 12 people are still on. Maybe 12 people forgot to close their tab or something, or just tuned out a bit. Still have 10 people on the chat. Okay. The code for has22 isn't working for me. Okay, so let's go back to has22. Python list has22. So this code isn't working on your end, Michelle, or did you do like a custom solution? Oh, my bad. Wait. No, we tested this code, didn't we? Yeah, we tested this together. What would be the issue with has22? I'm not too sure why my code's not compiling right now. What if I change this just to return false? Okay. That's weird. Let me try closing this tab. Let me go back here. Let me try running something else. Okay, so that compiles. Okay, let's go back to list2, has22. Okay. Yeah, so this seems to work in my end, Michelle. At least when the thing isn't stalling. Okay, so this code didn't work for you, Michelle. There are still errors for some of the test. I have an else statement that I'm going to try to take out. Okay. Okay, so what you can do, Michelle, is if you can't get it to work, you can just email me your solution, and I can email you back the solution updated to get it to work. I took out the else statement. We have an else statement in the solution. So yeah, I'm not totally sure how your code works, Michelle. But yeah, if you're still having some issues, you can email me with it. But it sounds like you got the hang of it all by yourself. So that's nice. Yeah, but you can email me if the code is still having issues. Okay, so I'll wait one more minute. for you to respond, Michelle, until 11:22. Yeah, so my email is in the Avni page. It's OASM, OWAISM. Or I'll put it in the chat actually. OASM at mcmaster.ca. Cool. I'll hang around for another minute till 11:22, guys. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so I think that's it then. If there are no more questions, cool. Okay, so have a great reading week, guys. Take care. Bye.